thanks so much for joining me in episode 3 of my Finding Your Fit series, where we're talking all about jackets and how to find those that fit. And this series is all about finding the clothes and the sizing that works best for you. Now, if you haven't caught my previous episodes, make sure to skip on back and get those. The first thing and video that I did was all about why finding your fit is so important, and so I really think that's helpful in understanding the rest of the series. So definitely make sure to check that out. And then the 2 previous to this were tops and dresses, and so you'll have taken your measurements for those already and can apply most of those to the measurements we need today. So definitely check those 2 out. Also, if you are not watching on my website, make sure at some point before or after to click on over there, because then you can get the worksheets and be able to have all the information you need in order to know how to find your fit. So we're going to hop right into it. When it comes to jackets, there are 3 different things to think about and really need to know in order to find the right jacket for you. Now, when I'm talking about jackets, mostly in this setting, we're talking about blazers. And I gotta be honest and real with you guys, I don't normally wear a blazer. I had this in my closet from college and I threw it on for the video so that I can actually speak to it. But more often than not, I'm either in like a coatigan, which is like a long cardigan that kind of looks like a blazer, or I'm in a jacket like this, which is a really long, kind of a blazer version, a structured jacket that's dressier. And I'm normally in one of those and not this. So I'm going to have a lot of things to be able to point out to you where you would not normally wear this blazer because it's too tight on me, and so we'll go over those measurements for you. But in general, we're talking about blazers here, but these can apply also to the other jackets you might wear in your life, like a cool leather jacket or kind of a jean jacket. Those are a little bit more structured, but or a jacket like I like to wear. So the first thing that we're going to do, and the first and important thing to do when it comes to jackets and it comes to everything else we've done, is measurements. So make sure you grab a tape measure like this. If you've done the previous 2 videos, then there's only 1 additional measurement that you will need here. So we can kind of, you can kind of skip ahead to a couple minutes ahead of this. But if you have not done these, then this is something that we need to go over. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is your shoulders. Now, it's very, very, very important that your jacket fit in your shoulders, because if you have a jacket that is too big, it'll look like you're wearing somebody else's jacket, and this is kind of where everything is going to fall from. So we want them to fit in your shoulders. And if it's too small, you're going to tell. You're going to be too crammed. This probably, this hits me a little too short, which is probably one of the handful of reasons that it is too small on me. But when it's too short, you're going to be able to tell. The shoulders are going to be in too much, and again, it's not going to look like you are in a jacket that is fit for you. So when we're measuring our shoulders, we're going to put the tape measure right at the edge of our shoulder, and then you can pull it over like this. Make sure that line is straight and get the measurement over here. I like to put my finger down right where it is at the end, and then you can let go of this to look. And mine is always at 16. I'm a 16 when it comes to shoulders. So you want to probably measure twice for this just to make sure you're hitting the right spot, and then write that measurement down. After we've done that, we're going to move on to our chest. So we're going to wrap this around ourselves. When you're measuring for your chest, you need to be on top of your chest. You're going to be kind of under your armpits here. And what I recommend is you get it nice and tight and straight and even. And then I recommend you take a deep breath and see where it falls you there. So I'm normally between a 33 and a 34. And another easy way to make sure you're on track is to just check what your bra size is, and that's probably going to be the same measurement that you're going to get here or very close to it. And chest is going to be really important, especially if you like to button your blazer, because if you don't have enough room here to button, you're going to have pulling. And it's just not going to be comfortable. Although I will say most styles nowadays are going to be more of an open blazer like this. You probably won't be buttoning them up anymore, especially since dress codes have really gone more business casual. So you might not be wearing a ton of blazers anymore unless you're trying to have a more fun, dressed up look. For example, I'm wearing jeans right now. I'm not in a dress slack. So could be something to add into your wardrobe, even if it's just for your going out looks. Anyways, we're going to move on to our waist, and our waist is very important to know, because when it comes to blazers, we don't want to have this big old box on us. we want to make sure that we're thinking kind of hourglass and where we're having a bit of a defined waist and tailoring it accordingly. So to find your waist, you're going to want to bend to your side, find your natural crease, which for me is right here. Then you're going to take that measurement. So I'm always somewhere between 27 and 28, I'd say. So I'm at about 27 and a half right now. Once we have gotten that, then what we're going to move on to are our sleeves. So we want to go from the edge of our shoulder, and then we want the sleeve to hit about our wrist bone. And so I like to say either a little before or about the middle of your wrist bone is where you want. And when I say before, I mean this part of your arm, not close to your hand. So we don't want it to be covering up over our hands, because if we do that, it's going to look way too big on us, and again, like we're in somebody else's blazer. So you want to make sure it hits you about here. And a lot of the times too, you might be cuffing your sleeves, so like I am now. I had no choice in this blazer. You could see this is way too short. My wrist is here and it's ending about there. So, but you can see how I don't really have a choice. The rolling the blazer though is great to have a more casual look, to have a little bit more of a relaxed look. So if you feel too stuffy in a blazer, always remember this is an option for you. But anyways, let's get down to the measurements. So we're gonna not drop this, we're gonna get the end of our shoulder. We're gonna try to create the best straight line we can. You can do that by kind of grabbing this in between your fingers and pulling taut. And then when you look down, I'm hitting somewhere between 20 and 21. So that's what I'm gonna look for. And that's an important measurement, especially if you're petite or tall, because sleeves are gonna vary for that, and you wanna make sure that you're getting one that's gonna fit you well. Once we have that, the last thing that I recommend kind of taking a look at, and this is where this blazer is a huge problem for me, is you wanna kind of measure your arms. And so I'd measure up at the top. That's really where you're gonna feel the most tightness. And just take that into account, because this blazer, the two things that are tight about this for me are in my arms, and you want to make sure you have extra room in your arms, because right now I'm wearing a sleeveless top, but a lot of the times you might be wearing a long sleeve, and I definitely don't have room for a long sleeve in here. And another thing to think about too is right about here, so the chest shoulder area. If you go like this, I'm not sure if you can quite see, but if you cross your arms and you have vertical or horizontal pulls, and that's way too tight for you, and that's definitely what I have here. So it's definitely too tight to feel comfortable. I'm kind of getting a fat guy in a little coat feel here, and you could definitely feel it when you do the crossovers. So make sure to do that when you're trying on your fit, and make sure you kind of know your arm measurements so that you can match those up accordingly and know, especially if you're buying online, if the blazer's gonna fit you. So the second thing that I've definitely touched on so far when we were talking about measurements, but the next most important thing once you have your measurements to know when you're buying your blazers, is the cuts of everything. So we want to make sure that our blazer is not a big old box on us. We want to make sure that we have an hourglass type of figure. And so part of that can be when you have the button, you want to make sure you've got this look here, not a straight down line. Or if you're having something that flares out, just make sure you can see that my figure it's hugging my figure pretty well, which is good. It definitely fits me in the body well. It's just the arms that have had a little too much pasta and it's not fitting me quite right there. But that's going to help create your shape and make sure you have proportion. Another thing for proportion is going to be the length of your blazer. So I typically recommend it hit a little bit below your hips. So we're talking about mid hip length. You don't want to have your butt fully covered. You have a vent that's going to help you with that there to make sure you've got, showing off your figure a little bit. But you're either going to have it around this length where it's about mid-hip, or if you're going to go with a jacket like I typically wear, then we're going for a much longer look. So we're looking about 6 inches above the knee is where this guy would end. This is going to be more of a straight figure, and the way that you're going to have your figure shown off is by having a straight line with the opening here. So I'm going to put this on to show you what I mean. Take this guy off. Ooh, that guy was tight. And we're going to put this guy on. So when you're wearing, so much more comfortable. So you can see how this fits me much better in my shoulders. I've got much more room in my arms. I could definitely put a long sleeve under it. And you can see the way it's showing off my shape, not only does it have this here, which is defining, it's a little higher than my waist, but it's defining a smaller part of my body. But we also want to make sure this lays flat. If you get to where it's more of like an A, it's going to create this odd shape out there for you. And so in order to be the most slimming, we want it to be straight down in front. Like I said, this one's hitting me about 6 inches. I know it's hard to tell, but it's hitting me about 6 inches above. That's good for me since I'm short. I wouldn't want to go much longer than this just because then I'm going to be forced to be in heels. And if I'm forced to be in heels, I can't, wear it as much. Another example I have that I love is also this guy. And so you can see this one's cut a little differently. It's already cut at a 3/4 length. Actually, it's cut a little shorter than a 3/4 length. And this one I kind of let flop over. You can see again, straight line. It's going to show off my figure. It's hitting me properly in my shoulders. This one's already longer, so we don't really need to, or shorter, so we don't need to worry about sleeve length. But this one is hitting me. You can see the end of it here. It's a little shorter. I will say you want to be careful about that though. We're getting into this weird middle area where my blazer ended here. And I would want it normally to be a little longer in order to proportionally show me off and not be creating too much of a top heavy look. So you want to be careful with that, and those measurements are very important. And then like we talked about before, the other thing that's important with proportions is going to be that room in your arms. So making sure you've got room, not only to decrease on sweat. So if you have this armhole where it's too tight, it's going to increase the ability or the possibility of you sweating more because it's so tight on your arms. And you also won't be able to get a long sleeve shirt on under it, which you're probably going to wear a lot of blazers in the wintertime, especially if you're up here in Cleveland because it's so stinking cold. So you want to be able to have that flexibility to wear your blazer all year round because you're going to get them in neutrals, and the goal is to wear them a lot, as in quality and lasting long, as well as in mixing and matching a lot. So that is the second important thing. The last important thing to think about is which style you want to purchase, and then where to get those from. So I had mentioned a traditional blazer like I'm wearing now. You could have a long blazer like I was wearing before. I call this more of like a coat, a driving coat. You might hear that being said as well. Or a coat again. So if you don't need to be super business professional, or you don't even need to wear a blazer, but you want that more polished, put together look, consider a coat again, which is a long sweater that looks more structured like this guy, just made out of a knit sweater material. When it comes to finding those pieces, I recommend to find a traditional blazer to try J. Crew or Theory. Theory you can find at Nordstrom. They are great quality. They typically fit people very well. They've got a little stretch to them, which is good. And J. Crew's got great basics for you. Just make sure you find the one that fits you well. When it comes to long coats, the two that I showed you here today, those are both from Zara. So I like to get them from Zara, or I've been trying to stock them in the mobile boutique. So when it comes closer to the colder weather, I try to get those in stock, and you can check those out on my site. The last thing that we're looking for is a coat again. So it's going to be the coat that is also like a cardigan. And that you can find, I try to keep those in stock as well once the colder weather hits. Nordstrom Rack has a lot of great options if you go on their website and compare your measurements to what you see online. And your last option is LaFleur. They have some great versions, shorter and longer versions of the coatigan, which could be great for you if you just want some more room, you want the flexibility, and you don't want to feel as structured as you would in a jacket. As always, guys, if you have any questions, please comment and let me know. I'd love for you to comment and let me know what your favorite tip was from the series today. And then follow along if you're following live. The last video, which will be coming up next week, is going to be all about finding your fit in pants, which I know can be such a struggle, and I've got a little interesting story for you there, so make sure to follow along. Or if you're watching and these videos are posted, click on to the next one to hear that interesting fact. Thanks so much for joining me, guys, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!